It's time for Pure Performance.
Get your stopwatches ready. It's time for Pure Performance with Andy Grabner and Brian Wilson. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Pure Performance. My name is Brian Wilson, and with me, as always, I have my co-host, Andy Grabner. Andy, it's good to be back. I almost didn't make today's recording because I got the COVID.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I know. I heard. But, why do you go back to COVID? I thought we were past that stage of our lives.
It's the hip thing to do now. Now it's like ironic COVID.
Okay.
Which is probably very upsetting to joke about for anybody who lost anybody. So don't mean to make light of it. Sorry, everybody. But it's just been a whirlwind of events. You know, my daughter's home because we can't have any caretakers. So my wife and I are juggling work and taking care of her. And yeah, it's been a lot of fun. But what's more fun, Andy, is that we had our guest on previously.
No.
And, in the nerd realm, I think we all live in, there's a special number 42. Mm-hmm. And the last time this guest was on was 42 episodes ago. So it's awesome to have a repeat at that level. So I'm very excited for the episode. But I'll let you take over because you can probably figure out a transition from this to our topic if you're on today.
Well, 42, if I remember, it had something to do from a science fiction novel, and sometimes AI and artificial intelligence for many sounds and is like science fiction, right? It's like so something that is awesome that we want, but we cannot explain it. And so, without further ado, we are talking about AI, the topic that is on everybody's mind. And just by putting AI on the title of our podcast, I assume this is going to have a lot of hits, a lot of people that are listening in, but they are probably wondering who is our guest. And therefore, I want to pass it over. Nir, thank you so much for being here. Maybe you want to introduce yourself for those that didn't listen to the 42nd episode before this one.
So they can go back to, what was it, 299, right?
199.
199, yeah.
So they can go to the 199 episode. Listen to it again. But so I'm. By the way, 42 is like it's from the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Universe. It's like the answer for everything. So
and it was created by wasn't DeepMind. No. Was DeepMind? No, DeepMind was the computer on the ship, but the Earth was a supercomputer to figure out the meaning of the universe. So it ties into the AI very well, Andy.
Exactly.
So you were.
So who are you?
So I'm Nir. I'm the CEO of Traceloop, and we're building an LLM Gen AI engineering platform for evals, monitoring, and everything you need to get your app up and running in production.
I remember last time when we talked, and I just have the episode in front of me. It was called OpenLLMetry, and we had, I think, a tongue breaker because we tried many times to figure out how to correctly pronounce it.
I think it was just you. It was just you. You still messed it up.
I know. OpenLLMetry.
OpenLLMetry.
Yes.
Yeah. So for those that have not followed what you're doing and what OpenLLMetry is all about, can you just quickly teach me how to correctly pronounce it and just explain what problems it solves?
So it's OpenLLMetry. It all started in the summer of 2023, where we were playing around with OpenAI. I think GPT-3 came out a couple of months ago, and then like GPT-4 was right like around the corner, and we were looking for ways to kind of understand better what's going on with the LLM. Like we were like running these complex kind of workflows and agents, and it was kind of difficult to understand what's going on. And so we were looking for a way to just see, observe what's coming in and out of the LLM. And we knew about OpenTelemetry, which is a huge open source project from CNCF. And we thought, okay, it would be cool to just take OpenTelemetry and extend it to support LLMs. That was like the hot new thing. And so we started building OpenLLMetry, which is basically a set of extensions to OpenTelemetry to support GenAI. Back then it was LLMs. Now it's Gen AI because we have like vision models and we have image generation models and audio and voice and whatnot. So that's that. I think I remember when was the last time we spoke, but since then we've like the project has grown. We've built more and more kind of adapters to many different LLMs. And it's now kind of slowly becoming also part of the OpenTelemetry, like the bigger OpenTelemetry standard and project.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got to notice. I was just going to say quickly, in terms of adoption, not trying to plug our product here in any way, but as we're learning and coming up to speed on the sales engineering side on our capabilities of monitoring LLMs and generative AI, it was told to me that it's like, oh yeah, it's because all of these products now, chat and all the others, have this stuff baked in. So it's a lot of it's already pre-instrumented for us, and we just have to collect the data, because there's always the big question, well, how are you going to, monitor those systems? And what I think is really fascinating is this was always the promise with OpenTelemetry in the first place, that vendors were going to bake in telemetry code to their systems so that you wouldn't have to go do it manually. And it really seems to be being embraced by the companies that are using OpenLLMetry.
Yes.
So awesome to see it like in real life just taken off.
Yeah, we've been working closely with a lot of like other vendors as well. Like we have working closely with Vercel. I think one of the coolest thing is that if you use like Vercel AI, for example, for just using AI in TypeScript, then you have OpenTelemetry baked in and it's using our standards. So then you can just, it will just work. You don't need to do anything. So we didn't need to do anything. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
One quick technical question. I mean, you partially just answered it, but if I am building an app that is interacting with an LLM, am I implementing then, am I using OpenLLMetry to then extend your calls to the LLM? Or is it that Brian alluded that chances are very high when whatever LLM I'm using, that it already is pre-instrumented and I don't need to do anything else? What's the current state?
Yeah, you don't need to do anything else. It's instrumenting all those kind of LLM SDKs automatically. And that's like, for the last like two years, our battle has been like just keeping up with technology. Because, OpenAI, they come up with like the responses API. Okay, we need to support that. Then like function calling, structured outputs, vision models, and like just keeping up with those ever-changing APIs so that people who use the open source will just get this kind of magic that, install the SDK, you don't do anything, and wow, you get a full trace.
So basically you walked the hard path, what many of the APM vendors years ago walked when we all implemented agents, and every time when a new Java version came out and Java runtime, any new framework versions, we had to make sure that our agents are instrumenting the latest and greatest and that we don't break things and that we capture the right things. And you basically did the same thing for all of these libraries and SDKs that now developers are using to interact with LLMs. And I guess because you have achieved such a great success and adoption, now more and more people are just taking basically the work off your shoulders and they just instrument their stuff directly, right? I mean, that's awesome. That's perfect.
Yeah. I mean, Andy, if you go back again to, as I said before, the promise of OpenTelemetry way back was this, right? And obviously everything moves so much faster in the AI world, including this adoption, which is just, really, really cool to see. Because I still see with regular stuff, there's some people use OpenTelemetry, some people don't, but most of the vendors haven't got on board on baking things in, so it's easy for people. But it's like, I don't know. To me, it's just fascinating. Like, this is a beautiful world seeing that. It's like, bam, it's on. And it's, even if you use a vendor like us, if you could get it in there, whatever technical challenges there may or may not be, we would probably be picking up the basic stuff, right? In terms of the instrumentation, entry point, there may be a couple of key things because that's, all you really know of. But the idea here is that these vendors know the important deep bits of code that you need to be exposed to. And they pre-instrument it. So you're getting, a custom built, and I'm saying this, I guess, more for our listeners, because I guess we all know this stuff, right? But you're getting a very specific set of instrumentation as deemed important by the vendor who knows the code, right? So then all you have to do is ingest that into whatever your choice is, hopefully us, but whatever. And you have that deep set of data, which is fantastic. And it's all because of you. And your team that you've been working on.
Can I brag? Can I brag about the statistics of the? I don't know if we talked about like the open source status last time, but it's been growing pretty quickly since then. So can I brag?
Yeah, of course. Talk about
yeah.
So I was just pulling my like the latest from GitHub. So as of today, we've just crossed the 3 million downloads a month. We were like 1 million just I don't know, a month ago. And we have more than 83 contributors, 6.2K stars, and I think, even our competitors, in the AI monitoring space, even they are using OpenLLMetry to instrument. Like they tell their customers, hey, you should use OpenLLMetry to instrument your applications. This is like my personal biggest win. It's like, okay, this is something real. Like people actually look at this and say, "Hey, this is good. I should use it. I know these are my competitors, but I should use it. They've done a good job there."
Now, why do you think that is? Why do you think you are so successful?
I think the truth. I think writing those instrumentations is a lot of like dirty work, and keeping up and making sure that you instrument everything and it works well with every kind of new version of any vendor LLM SDK is a lot of really, really boring, hard work that we've done in the past 2 years. And people don't want to do it. Like if someone has already done it and it works and you put in, tens of different LLMs and you get out like a standard a set of kind of spans and semantic conventions and metrics, people like it. You don't like we save you a lot of like annoying, boring coding work.
And also one last technical question: did you then basically contribute back to all of those SDKs? That means you open up pull requests to all of these SDKs on their Git repositories and basically changed and instrumented their code correctly, or did you build some type of auto instrumentation that instrumented the SDK and you provide a tool? What's the approach?
It's auto instrumentation. We try to work with some of the vendors, but sometimes it's difficult. There's like some of the code of the SDK is like auto generated, so it's kind of like more complex on how to instrument it within those SDKs. So right now, for most all of these instrumentations are like auto instrumented from the outside, and this is like what we manage in our repository. But we have some vendors that decided that like they want, like this is how they want to instrument their SDK. So for example, IBM is maintaining their own kind of Watson X instrumentation within OpenLLMetry, and also many like vector databases are also managing their own instrumentations in our repo.
Now the next one is a tough but important question. What is the data that I'm actually getting if I use OpenLLMetry? What's the data and what problem does it solve?
So the data is everything. I want to say everything that you need, but it's prompts, completions, token usage, token data, function calling. If you're using a vision model, you get the image. If you're using a vector databases, you can see, the query, you can see the response, you can see the scores. What we basically instrument everything that we can in the request and the response. And then we also kind of like define the standard way to like the names of the semantic conventions that we should use for those. What you're getting is visibility. It's like, let's say, I think 2024 people were talking about agents, like AI agents. 2025 people are actually building AI agents and pushing them to production. And so when you push those to production, you need a way to understand what's going on. You have an agent, it's like going, working for 2 minutes doing something, answering a question. You have no idea which tools are running, how much time each tool takes, each call takes, what's going on, if there's a failure, what failed, how can I rerun it and figure out what went wrong. So all of this information is super important for people, and it's especially important if you're using any frameworks like LangGraph or Mastra or Crew AI or many others. They kind of obfuscate a lot of the data or a lot of the information. They encapsulate like the prompts that they're sending to the LLM and like the exact structure of what's going on in their internals. And as an AI engineer, as a data scientist, it's super important to see this information like during development.
For me, Brian, this again reminds me, and I think we talked about this in one of the last episodes. It reminds me of the old Java applications using Hibernate to access a database. And actually then with instrumentation, seeing the actual database queries that get executed by this magic black box / framework that is converting my request as a developer to the actual database statements, right? And I think it's in the end, we identified so many inefficiencies because it was a generic framework that was created generically, but was never optimized for the particular use cases. And I think you're explaining something very similar. We're building very complex systems now, and there's a lot of magic and black box things happening. And so automated instrumentation into those layers provides you the visibility so that you can then understand why does it take long, why is it so costly, what is happening. And I think the fourth one, important one, is how can we optimize?
Yes, exactly. I think so. Like the way this like AI development lifecycle looks like is that okay, you begin, you just build your kind of first POC version of, let's say, your agent, like your chatbot or something, and then when you want to kind of start rolling it out to users, you need to figure out, okay, first, how can I make sure it actually works? And then B, how do I make changes to it? How do I improve it over time? And to improve it, you need to understand where is it not working, like where is it failing? And then when you figure out, okay, it's failing for this input, so this is what I'm going to fix it. Now we need to make sure that it is still working, right? You had like a completely big functionality built in, and then you need to kind of like run some tests, which are called evals in like the Gen AI space, before you push it to production. So you have, so I mentioned, okay, you have monitoring to kind of monitor your application in production and finding those use cases where your application fails. And you take those use cases, you rerun them in your development environment, you fix the bugs, and then before you push it again, you run the evals to make sure that, A, you fix the bug, and B, that you didn't introduce any new bugs. It really reminds, I think, like it should remind you like a kind of traditional development, right? You have testing and monitoring, but there are some nuances around it back because like kind of like the whole like kind of concept of testing in LLM gets more complex because you have arbitrary text coming in and arbitrary text coming out. And so it's much more complex to figure out, okay, how do I, what's a right answer? How do I test for a right answer?
Yeah, and also if I run the same test 5 times with the same prompt, I make it 5 different responses, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's super non-stable. So it's not like a deterministic test that you like call a function that adds two numbers. You send it, 4 and 3, and you get 7, right? It will always be 7.
So how do we validate then the accuracy of the data that comes back?
So there's a lot of kind of common techniques that people use today. I think the most common one will be using another LLM, like which is called an LLM as a judge. So you take the answer, you take some context, all the trace, all the inputs and outputs that you send to the LLM, and then you want to run another LLM to grade the response. And there's a lot of like I think there's a lot of techniques around what you should do and what you shouldn't do when you're using another LLM to grade your main LLM. And it can be tricky because you can get you can think that you got like a good judge and your evals are working well, but then sometimes, you may push your application to production, given that like your judge said, yeah, everything is good, go ahead. You push it to production and you realize, oh wait, I didn't test for something, or my judge told me that everything was fine, but it actually isn't. I just like the judge wasn't working well. So it's a much like there's a lot of moving parts that you need to build and stabilize.
I mean, for me, it feels like obviously we're mirroring the real world. And I give you what I'm saying is, right, if I post something on LinkedIn and I make a statement, then in my bubble that I'm living, I probably get, because I live in a very specific bubble, I probably get a lot of positive response because the people that I connect to, they have similar backgrounds. And once all of a sudden I go out of my bubble, then I realize that actually everything that I have learned and everything that my judges told me that everything is fine might not be fine in outside of my context.
Yeah.
And so that means if you're building system and we're testing it with other LLMs and other agents, and they're all trained on the same limited scoped information or bubble information, then we're just mimicking exactly what's happening in the world, right? And with humans.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like sometimes when we talk to our customers, sometimes they even ask us, like we tell them, okay, here's the platform, you can build your evals, you can use them, you can train them, but then they get stuck because they're like, okay, but how do I know if how do I even know what's the correct answer? Like sometimes even the question of like what's a good answer versus a bad one is a really complex one to answer in the world of LLMs, right? It's like imagine you have a support chatbot. I don't know, you go to united.com, they have, I don't know if they have something like that, but let's say they have like an AI assistant that helps you book flights or something. Then you go there and you ask it to book you a flight. And like, I want to fly from, I don't know, Vienna to New York. Okay, great. And then it asks you, okay, when do you want to get back to Vienna? And then another agent asks, and then another agent, instead of asking you this question, just gives you, hey, here's your flight. Here's a button to book it. Which one is the right answer? Which one is the like are both just right possible answers? Like how do you even know which one is good and which one is bad? If you got the first one in one version of your app and then with the other one in the another version of your app, is your app like getting better or worse? Like what it's kind of philosophical.
Yeah, but the analogy is interesting because it can happen that you call whatever support hotline today, and tomorrow you call again, you get a different agent on the line, a real human, and that real human might just be on training or a complete expert, right? And follows a different path.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, on the United example, sorry, Brian, just on the United example, I think if it's United or some other US airline, but I remember they have a new ad campaign where they say, we actually have real people behind the phone line and you're not being treated by an AI.
Yeah. I have something contrary, and I would love to get treated by AI. I think like AI is easier to work with because like it's like it's if you have a specific task, sometimes AI can just help you easily, more easily than some agent that like will be slower because it like works on multiple conversations. And it's like
I think it depends on the AI they're using. If it's just the chatbot that we've been used to for years and years and years, which are pretty awful. Right. It's funny. I actually had an issue with a package from Amazon yesterday. It came empty. And so I finally got on with the chat thing to try to get it resolved. And I was trying to tell it, like, I got the package, but there was nothing inside the package and there was a hole in the envelope, And it was like, all right, don't worry about sending it back. We understand you didn't order that. So we'll refund you. I'm like, okay, well, that's not the real resolution, but you're saying you'll refund me and I don't have to send it back. So it's the outcome, but not because like the words don't match up to what it was. I actually got to still see if that went through properly. But this also reminds me of another thing, especially with LLMs that I saw recently about as LLMs, like similar to what you're talking about, right? If you're saying like, let's say you're dealing with a human, right? Humans often going to have a script, and stuff they do and don't do, right? And the more they know, the wider their breadth of knowledge is and experience within that thing, the more they know how off script they can go and what things they can pull and all. And you might get a better result, right? But a newer person's going to stick to the script and follow that script. And, just like with my Amazon experience, it's, I might get to the outcome I want, but it's going to be like, okay, that wasn't really true, but sure, right? At the end. With LLMs, I was seeing how, especially with search engines, right? If they're training on data on the internet, and then all the data is created by AI on the internet, and that data becomes homogeneous, meaning all the same, then the LLM continues to learn on that same data and the variation dies, right? So when you talk about these philosophical problems with AI, this is one of those ones as well that link into, I think, some of this, where it's like, all right, how do we keep the data set rich where it's not like AI feeding AI the same stuff that it's been refining until there's just one path and no other alternative component on it, right? And this is, I guess, not really for here, but it was just a really interesting tie-in to a lot of this kind of stuff.
It reminds me of a paper I read, I think it was a while ago, about the fact that they run some tests around training, how LLMs are trained, and they saw that the more so today you go when GPT, let's say 3 was trained, most of 99% of the internet was human generated content. But now I don't know what percentage is but it's much less than, I would say, 90. I might argue that it slowly becomes 50 or 60% is human generated, and the rest is AI generated. Imagine LinkedIn posts, blog posts, everything. Everything today is everyone is just using AI, and so they run this test of okay, let's take. We begin with an LLM that was trained only on human data, on humanly generated data, and then we use the LLM to generate AI data, and then we train another LLM only on the AI generated, the synthetic AI generated data. And then we repeat this process, and around, I think, after 5 times, they actually saw a huge degradation in performance, looking at the AI that was only trained on AI data, AI synthetic data.
Right. One other thing I do want to bring up, though, because this is going back to beginning of this conversation, you were talking about AI agents, right? And I had another thought, and I don't know if it ties in directly to that same concept of an AI agent, but when we talk about possibilities of AI and all this, Andy, this I think is especially interesting for us, or actually even the OpenLLMetry. And I'll say, if you're having trouble with OpenLLMetry and you're older like me, think of LL Cool J, one of the original hip hop artists. It's LLMetry, LL Cool J, LLMetry, right? Nice. So there you go. But I was just imagining an AI-based agent where when a slowdown occurs, let's say in your code, the agent can automatically tune up instrumentation in the area of the slowdown to get more depth and more specific instrumentation, and then turn it off when it's not, right? So, it's like adding manual instrumentation, but doing it in the spot that was identified, doing it automatically so that it's not always on, and then turning it off. And that to me is just even a fascinating concept. I don't know if anything's anywhere near that kind of level of thing, if it's even come up as a thought to start exploring. I can imagine it would be very difficult and risky in the beginning, but just the possibilities of all this stuff are quite insane.
Now, I would argue that you don't need an AI and an agent for everything. This use case for me more screams like you build in telemetry already, and then you turn it on selectively, like a log level from info to debug when you need it, right? Or like our live debugging capabilities that we have, you would then just turn it on because the instrumentation it has to be there, but you may not capture it actively because you don't need it always. So I think it's a great use case, but I think what's important is that we also understand where do we really need the power of an AI and the complexity and the cost of an AI, and where can we solve a certain problem maybe in a much more straightforward, simple automation way.
Mm-hmm.
That would be my
You
answer
just
to this.
pooped on my idea, but that's okay.
I just gave you a different perspective, but I live in my bubble.
Yours makes more sense.
Hey, Nir, I have another question for you because you brought this up in the preparation of this call. There's some new exciting news, some stuff that you've open sourced, something about a hub that you are proud about and that we should talk about.
Yeah, we are working on a new exciting open source project. We called it the Traceloop Hub. It's an LLM gateway. And the idea is that you uh, when we were talking to a lot of companies, okay, you wanna instrument your code, right? You wanna see what's going on with your LLMs, but imagine you're working at a huge company, and so it's not just a single service that's using an LLM. You have like many different services, and you want to instrument them all. So one way is okay to go to each one and install your SDK, but another option would be to take our hub, our LLM gateway, and deploy it once in your system and just route your entire traffic, your entire LLM traffic through that gateway. And so you're getting the benefit of traceability. You will see everything that's going, in and out of the LLM, which is great for, audits and whatever you need to do in order to actually see, what are you using your LLM for. And because it's an LLM gateway, you can kind of like also use it for load balancing, switching between models, kind of getting a unified API for all of your LLM models, all the LLM models you're using. But it's a single point of failure, so it's kind of like me as an engineer was like, I don't wanna, I'm not sure if I want to do it. So we decided to build it in Rust, so it will be super low latency, super reliable, and really small footprint, no garbage collector, nothing. So it's like this. Rust is a great language, and building stuff on Rust gets you super reliable services. And this is what we've done with the Traceloop Hub, and we've been working, extending in it for the last couple of months, and hopefully we'll also kind of release it to the public. It's already available. We haven't announced it.
Yeah. Now I gotta also ask a critical question. Similar response to what I had to Brian's idea. But I remember at last KubeCon, there were several other vendors that basically talked about AI gateways, LLM gateways. Isn't that essentially the same idea? I mean, aren't there already products out there, and why not partner with them and instrument their products and come up with your own?
So we haven't invented the concept of an AI gateway, of course, and we've partnered with a lot of other AI gateways, and they are also supporting OpenTelemetry. The problem, and I don't want to mention anyone by name, but it's like from our experimentation, our testing, they were not reliable and slow. And so when we were talking to our customers and we recommended those solutions for some of them, we were like, it didn't work well for us. And so we wanted to build something that we can be, we can feel comfortable promoting to our customers, and we have the guarantee that we know this is working, this is reliable, this is not affecting your systems latency, and nobody has done anything like that in Rust, and we figured, okay, this is the way to go.
Yeah, it also makes, I mean, to end on a positive note here, right? I guess if I look at the other vendors that I know that have built something like this, they came from somewhere else. They came from an API gateway background, and obviously they optimized all of their routing and all this stuff based on different use cases, and then they added the LLM use case on top. You, on the other hand, you have a lot of experience exactly with that type of traffic, and so you could build a custom purpose-built solution to solve exactly that problem in a much more efficient way.
Yeah. And there are things you can put in an LLM gateway which you cannot put in like a normal API gateway. For example, guardrails. You want to block certain response from the LLM or don't send out stuff to the LLM. It's like it's really LLM specific.
Yeah. And then I do have one more technical question though on this one. That means in an organization, if I would use your hub, that means I would only obviously route that type of traffic to you, and I would route all the regular traffic still to my existing API gateway. So it becomes a component that sits, I guess, either behind or on the side of your regular API gateways.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's completely open source. We love building stuff which are like Apache 2. So it's Apache 2 and it's open source, which is my dream has always been to build open source projects, and so I'm so lucky that I get to build OpenLLMetry and now another one.
Yeah, and obviously your success shows that the whole open source and especially as you said in the beginning, you did the tough, dirty, quote unquote boring work that nobody wanted to do, but everybody now benefits. This was leading to the fact that you became the de facto standard because everybody was using you because it just worked then out of the box until you reached a point where people actively came to you and implemented instrumentation based on your product, on your framework, and everything is open source. And yeah,
exactly.
Now, how do you make money? Because in the end, you need to pay your bills.
Should I? Oh, okay. I didn't know.
A little bit. It's interesting because I want to, and I mean, this podcast, it is all about thought leadership, and we don't want to use it to promote too much any commercial products. But on the other side, I think it's interesting, right? Because we live in a world that tries to figure out how can both worlds coexist in a way that it makes sense, right? Open source and commercial. So what's your angle?
So we have our paid platform, and we have a lot of customers using the platform and paying us money for using the platform. And the idea is that what we see is that you use OpenLLMetry for what I like calling visibility. So you're just seeing what's going on in your system. But once you hit production, you start reaching this scale where it doesn't make sense, where seeing is not enough. Because in your development environment, you can just go to this trace and just view the prompts and completions. But if you have millions of users, hopefully you have millions of users, and then you just you get billions of traces, and how do you make sense of that? How do you know which ones you should look into, and which one is interesting, which one contains an interesting conversation of a user that you should debug or something? And when we started the open source, and we started building also the platform that just visualizes the stuff we had on the open source, which is the V1. We saw that a lot of the users we had back then were using, when they hit production, they were just manually, clicking on traces because they were really curious to see what users are doing with their new shiny LLM product, but they didn't know, which one. They had millions of traces. They click here. Oh, interesting. Click this. And I'm okay, maybe I can build something that will point them to the right direction, another layer of insights that will help you understand and figure out from the mess. Okay, these are the traces that are interesting. These ones failed miserably. These ones had errors. You should look into this and this. And so. And this is kind of how the big kind of paid platform came into life. And this is the first thing that we offered, real-time insights and monitoring for your LM application, so pointing into the right traces. And now we've also rolled out kind of the completing part, which is the evals, the offline evaluation feature.
Cool. So that means you're doing pattern detection, you're detecting certain areas, hotspots, and as you said, nobody can look into millions of conversations. You want to understand if certain things are changing based on patterns, maybe as a new topic that you never thought about, people ask about, or as a certain area where there's more failures.
Yeah, exactly.
So it sounds like overall it's people jump into this world of AI and doing things. They collect a bunch of data and then they say, okay, now what? And you're the now what? What do we do with this?
Exactly.
How do we analyze this? How do we understand it? How do we make sense of it? And I think that's important, right? Because all this stuff is hard enough for people to keep on top of, right? And we've seen in our own models too, where sometimes offering these services to help analyze or to help do this stuff is very important for people because they're I have a million things to do. Can you use your expertise and platform to do that? Yeah, it makes a lot of great sense. We even see this way back from going back to the idea of open source. Way back when Linux came out, right? And this company Red Hat launched, and then everyone was like, "Well, if it's a free operating system, how is there a company around it?" And it was all more about the support, the setup, the maintenance, and everything else around it. So I think we see these models a lot with open projects.
Right.
Yeah.
I got to ask you one tough question though on this.
Uh-oh.
Because in the end, you are
It's your
becoming
second tough question.
Yeah, no, sorry, but I assume I get the answer what you give me, but I want to still ask it. So what you're explaining to me is that you are becoming an observability backend because you're analyzing all these traces and logs and metrics that are coming in. Obviously, you have a lot of expertise by exactly analyzing this type of metadata that is part of your semantic convention. But if I am an enterprise and I collect my traces and I already have my existing observability platform, do I then make a decision to send it to both, to you and to them? Or do I route the specific traces from the LLM apps just to your system, but then potentially lose some of the other capabilities my observability platform gives me? It feels like there's a lot of overlap.
It's a great question, and I think, and I don't want people to use two different observability platforms. So I think you should see all your like all your complete traces in a single kind of like your APM or whatever observability platform you're already using for your cloud environment. And what I see that we do is that we connect to the same stream and we augment it and they give you more information based on our expertise of understanding, LLMs and the responses and everything. And then we kind of can route back the insights to your main observability platform. So you can see, you can have like a single pane of glass and a single dashboard with all the information. So latency for databases, but also quality for agents. And then, the other part is like traceloop as a development platform. So once you want to make fixes and make changes and improve your application, then, we use the same stream of data to kind of generate those test sets and data sets that you can use for running evals and improving your application, which is kind of unrelated from observability.
Yeah. But I like your initial response that you basically say you provide the expertise to augment the data with your findings, so that if you decide to do so, you could still visualize this in a Grafana dashboard or in a Dynatrace or a Datadog in your Relic dashboard, right? But basically, you enrich it with insights. Exactly. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, and we try like our kind of metrics and everything. We try to make it standard, so you can export our metrics in like PromQL or OpenTelemetry, and then just you can just connect it today to Grafana, Dynatrace, whatever you want.
Yeah, cool. We're nearing the end of our recording slot, but I have one final question for you. Shouldn't be too tough, but should be hopefully very helpful for all of our listeners. If I am an engineer and I'm currently starting or I'm responsible for an AI project, what are the 2-3 things that people need to watch out for? Or if to ask you the question, what are the top problems that you see? What are the top mistakes that you see in most of the data that you've analyzed?
So I think the top mistakes, interesting. I want to look at it from a positive perspective, like what you should do. Okay, maybe then I can also go and think about like what you shouldn't do. But like what you should do is when you need to think about your kind of like eval and monitoring solution early. Some people kind of like, let's just put something out there and we'll see. And I think it's the wrong way to look at it, because if once you hit production and if you don't have those kind of tools in place, you have no idea why your users are not using your Gen AI, like shiny Gen AI feature, what's going on, what's like, is it working or not? How do I make changes to the model? Like, OpenAI deprecates your model, you need to upgrade what you do. And so thinking about your eval story, thinking about, how do you measure the quality of your application is super important. It's like I would almost try to think about it like as a TDD, test-driven design. Begin with figuring out, okay, how do I test it? Like what's the goal? What's the outcome that I expect? Build a data set with like examples of inputs you're expecting, and then work with that, alongside that, as you build your application. And B, which is closely related to that, you need to keep it up to date. We've been talking to so many teams where they build their data set, and they kind of like how they change it, how it's like their golden data sets. Like, it's like this is a set of examples that we know people might be using with our app, and that's it. But you need to keep updating, and you need to constantly keep getting more and more fresh new examples from production, and kind of like refresh your data set that you're using for your evals.
Cool. Awesome. I'm taking notes because I also want to make sure that these things also make it to our show notes, including obviously the links to traceloop, to I found the link to the traceloop hub. Any other, I mean, obviously we'll link to your LinkedIn. If there's any additional links, any getting started, good tutorials, any good videos, obviously just let us know and we'll add it to the show notes as well, because we hope that our listeners will then want to know more, and therefore we want to give them stuff to follow up. Cool. Yeah. I assume this topic will not go away anytime soon. It's probably going to to grow more and more. And Brian, can we do the math? In 42 episodes from now, what's the episode that we need to ask him back for the next update?
I should be able to do it in my head, but I can't. So I will do it. Looks like 283.
283. So Nir, mark your calendar. Probably 42 is about in 10 months or so. We may have you back for another update, because this is an exciting and ever-changing topic. And I think it's just, as we see all these numbers going through the roof in terms of people that that are implementing projects, looking at organizations like companies like yours that are getting great funding. Congratulations, by the way, on the latest funding round. It's really cool, and we are here to spread the word and hopefully give people something new to think about and new insights so that they can become more successful with their AI projects.
Maybe we can make predictions of 8 months from now is really like June 2026. So what
So the question is, how many million downloads? How many million downloads will you have?
You mean how many billion downloads?
Billions, maybe billions. But like, but like, I don't know, GPT-5, will it be out? Like, GPT-6, like, where will it be? Like, what's the AGI? Will we reach AGI by June 2026?
Yeah. What's AGI?
I don't know.
Artificial, like, this is what, Sam Altman has been talking about it all the time. It's like, okay, we want to reach AGI, which is like artificial general intelligence, like the AI that can do everything.
Skynet.
Potentially kill us all. I don't know.
That or will there be a new model in play? We keep on talking about GPT and all that. We've seen from history all the time, like promising one in the beginning suddenly gets left in the dust by something else, right?
And hopefully not, I don't want to sound pessimistic, something dramatic happens and for whatever reason we have to completely stop everything.
Back to paper and pencil?
Back to paper and pencil, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think it's a no for AGI by 2026, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But cool. Now, thank you so much. It's really it's exciting because most of the conversations that we have these days is somehow always at least touching this topic, and it's great to know that people like you out there that are willing to share insights, building great tools, and thank you so much.
Yeah, I think it's also great too. Like from way back, I always had this banner I would carry, but not do much about that. Like antivirus should be free for all computer users, right? Like why are we, like the idea of making the experience easier and less stressful. And that's exactly what you're doing. As you even said, like you did all the dirty work that everybody else didn't want to do. You and your teams there, right? And as a result, there's all this efficiency coming out of it. There's all this telemetry coming out of it, which is making the adoption better, more effective, more useful. And it's just helping push this along in one part of the trajectory, but a very, very important one. And if it wasn't for people like you and the project that are contributing, see, I can't say contributing. We'll have to say OpenLLMetry at the end. But if it wasn't for this, right, and you making it open source, right? It's the beauty we go back to of the beautiful side of the tech industry of let's share knowledge, let's put it out there, let's make it all better for everybody, right? So really, really appreciate what you're doing there, and I'm sure everybody else does. So Andy, before we go, can you say it?
I'm actually just writing it down as an opener. Have I finally figured out how to correctly pronounce OpenLLMetry?
Hey, there you go.
This is good. Yeah.
Will LL Cool J still be alive in the next episode? There's another question. All right. Really appreciate the time, Nir. Always a pleasure. And
great being here.
Hope to talk to you soon. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for listening too. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.